Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our session, Aligned Nationally, Stronger Locally, How Fortune Brands Digitally Connects Their Non-Desk Workers. Today we'll be hearing all about the Fortune Brands internal communications team and how they tackled the problem of reaching a huge, dispersed, and diverse workforce through one single employee app. I'm James Casagrande, and I'm your moderator from Sitrion, who's sponsoring this session. Who is Sitrion? Well, we make award-winning mobile solutions for the enterprise, namely our employee app we call Sitrion One. We've been around for over 13 years, and we have one simple mission: make work better. We love working with best-in-class communications teams to increase employee engagement, boost productivity, and create a modern digital workplace experience for their employees. Now today I have the pleasure of introducing one of those best-in-class teams. Jennifer Rata, Senior Communications Manager at Fortune Brands, and Erin Libardoni, the Communications Manager over at Fortune, are both on the line today to tell us all about their awesome story and to answer our questions on their employee app. Speaking of questions, if you have any, please type them into the chat window and we'll get to them by the end of the session. So without further ado, Jennifer, good morning from Chicago, and take it away.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Today, we're going to tell you a little bit about our communications team and our company, Fortune Brands. We'll share with you why and how we have a mobile app. We'll show you the app, and then we'll talk to you about our launches. And our first one was just 6 months ago. So this is still fairly new to us, but we feel like we've had some good success, and we want to share with you what we've learned so far. And of course, as James just mentioned, we're happy to take questions, so we hope that you come up with some good ones. So about our team first. So we are really a team of 3 people. Elizabeth Castro is not on the call today, but she's our Senior Director of Corporate Communications. Myself and Erin both report to her, and then our team reports up to Brian Lance, who's our Senior Vice President of Communications and Corporate Administration. And I really just want to emphasize here that we're a small team, and you might on the phone also be dealing with a small communications team, or perhaps you're not in communications at all. So I just wanted you to know that we're a very lean, efficient team here, and we've been able to do a lot with the help of this app. A little about Fortune Brands. We make products that you're probably familiar with. We're in the home and security product space. You probably most recognize us from Master Lock security products and Moen faucets. But we also have cabinets, doors, and many other plumbing brands. We, in 2016, had $5 billion in sales, and we're definitely a growing company. Altogether, we are about 23,000 to 24,000 associates. Some of those are global, but right now we're focusing on our United States population. And of our U.S. population, we have probably 10,000 or so people who we consider non-desk workers. And they're scattered all over the place. And what we have been hearing from our different businesses, from cabinets, doors, plumbing, security, it all echoed the same sentiment. So, how do we reach people that don't have a company email address? No one can access our intranet. We made this really good video, but we don't know how to share it. Nobody knows anything about our benefits. And they would come to us with these messages that they wanted to share, and we had some stopgap things that we had put in place, but it was really hard for us to be able to support their business objectives with the communications vehicles that we had. And just as one example, because this might sound familiar to some of you who are on the phone, when we have quarterly earnings announcements, we want to share that news with the rest of our associates because we want them to know how they are helping to contribute to our success. So in order to do that, we have to gather, take an email from our CEO, make it into a printable PDF. Then we have to attach it to an email, send it to a huge distribution list of, plant managers, office people, distribution managers, and then request that they share that information with their teams, whether it's posting it up on a bulletin board or mentioning it at a meeting. So we've been doing this, and we continue to do this, but it's very hard to tell if it's working. We don't know if people are actually going forward with getting the message out, and we don't know if they're doing it that day or maybe they do it the following week. So we don't have as much control as we would like, and we don't know how to tell if we're being effective. So as we were looking at our communications needs and what our challenges were, we, for a brief moment, thought about making a really big, awesome intranet site. But we realized very quickly that that wasn't going to meet the needs for people that didn't have company email addresses and for all of those thousands of people that weren't sitting in front of a computer. And we just feel like the intranet site, it's just becoming antiquated. And the ones that we do have, they weren't used. We felt like a mobile app, it better meets the needs that we have today, and we think that what we have, the product that we have with Sitrion, is going to be able to help us meet our needs as we continue to grow. We came up with that realization, but then we had to share that with other people. So we basically took, what are our needs, our communications needs, what are our current vehicles, where is the gap, how can we do better, and the solution we felt was an app. And Elizabeth and Brian did a really great job of packaging that story and sharing that with our CFO, our CEO, and we got them on board. And actually, as we went through this process, and we were really excited about it, we got them excited about it, and Brian and Elizabeth were ready to say, we would really like to have another person on our team to be able to help support this effort. And before they could even get to that, I think it was our CFO, he said, you're going to need more help. And so it was like, oh, great. Yes, we agree. And so we had really great support from them. Once we had their support, we went to each of our businesses, met with key people there, and showed them what we were looking to do and how we thought it was going to be able to help us, how it was going to be able to help them, because we wanted to be part of it, and we just wanted to start gaining, gaining their feedback and making them aware so that they felt like they'd be part of it. So quickly before I show you the app, let me just tell you the things that it does for us, and these are all the things that we were looking for when we were searching for an app partner. So of course, we wanted a better way to communicate with all associates, especially those non-desk workers. We also wanted to be able to reach people quickly. So the app lets us post stories very easily, and that makes it a lot easier it just completely takes out the middleman that we've been having to deal with before. Not to mention, we are able to reach people in the manner in which they're most accustomed to getting information. So you'll see later on from our metrics that even though this is a great solution for non-desk workers, even for people who are in an office, this app allows them to get more stories with photography and more multimedia, and it's just a more interesting way for them to consume information as well. Our app allows us to have two-way engagement, so people can like things and comment and provide feedback. It has metrics, and of the vendors that we looked at, we felt the Sitrion metrics were definitely the strongest. So the metrics help us know, who's on the app, what's working, what isn't, so that we can improve. And then it also allows us to do audience segmentation so that we can target particular stories to certain audiences so that we can make things more relevant. So it does a lot, and I'm going to show it to you. And running. So this is our app, and this is a really powerful slide. Once people see the app, they can see that it looks like kind of a typical social media type of app. It's got pictures and just a little bit of text, and it looks friendly and it looks fun. When you talk to people about perhaps making an intranet site or a website, people generally know what to expect. But if you say, hey, we're going to be rolling out this employee communications app, they may not understand what that means. And so having this visual was so critical, whether it was in the roadshow and showing a prototype, or whether it's training people or launching the app, being able to see it is huge. Especially because you want people to listen, and you want them eventually to be willing to put it on their phone, their personal device. So you have to kind of give them a little preview of what's to come. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Erin, who's going to tell you a little bit about the kinds of stories that we post in here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm excited to be here. So what you're looking at here is content examples of things that we're posting to our population. So what you can see here is we're posting community stories. As Jen mentioned, benefits or financial wellness. We're able to get that information to people that previously did not have access to it. We have very strong brands, #1 brands in the market, and we're able to share all that brand information and brand recognition with our company all at the click of a button. This is just more content examples. So we are also posting, additional community stories. Our locations love pictures. There's great picture features in here. You can add multiple pictures. So if you have different events, people are getting together. The recent solar eclipse, everybody went wild over, pictures and just the fun that people were having, even if they stepped outside for 15 minutes. The story in the middle is one of our top rated stories of all time to date, and it's us sharing information about a launch that we had at Master Brand Cabinets, and people love to see associates in action. We're also able to share cybersecurity information, additional job postings, so for associates to keep a pulse on jobs across our companies, because we really want to foster that cross-company movement, and more. So another great thing is, while Jen and I are posting stories at really the Fortune Brands corporate level, going to all of our locations, there's localized content at our manufacturing locations. And so what you're seeing here is content specific to those locations. So what Jen and I have done is partnered with specific app writers in those locations, because they really have a pulse on the business and what their associates like. So you all might have a laugh right now looking at food trucks, but that's like a real regular thing that happens at our manufacturing locations, and they actually weren't able to easily get people information outside of them peering outside a window knowing that the food trucks were there. And so this is just a fun way for them to be able to continue to engage their associate population. So we have app writers at these different locations, and they're really owning and driving the content that's there. Jen and I do ongoing trainings. We have monthly app writer calls where we will share additional information, about additional enhancements from Sitrion, any changes. And it's really a great opportunity for us to share examples or things that we're seeing work really well. And obviously, Jen mentioned earlier, the metrics also help us do that. But if they start being able to share, additional feedback that they're getting on the front lines, it's just a great avenue for us to be able to continue to collaborate. So on this next slide, I'm going to share just kind of the differences in the streams that we're seeing by audience. So once this kind of comes up, what you're going to see is on any given day at each one of our locations, there's different content. So as I mentioned, we're posting content from the corporate office, but if our manufacturing location at Therma-Tru Doors is posting additional stories, here it comes up right now so you can see, they're going to see different content. And that's the beauty of the app, and what makes it so effective is we're welcoming a new associate at our corporate office, and we're sharing additional stories, but Therma-Tru over here is also able to share associates at a different event, and that's been really, really effective for our efforts. So where does this really start? So we have great content. We've leveraged working with our partners across our organization. It really starts with a thoughtful content strategy. So my role, as Jen mentioned, was able to be added to this team as we moved in this direction with a mobile app. And we started with really developing a calendar. And this is just an example. We actually use Smartsheet which is a great tool, and it allows us to add information based on the channel that we're utilizing. So right now, what you're looking at is our comm channel filtered by the app, but what we also have in this calendar is our other channels and other different vehicles that we're sending out. So if we have emails, if we are doing posts on LinkedIn, and it's really all wrapped together, and we're categorizing them, if you see all the way to the right-hand corner, by key message. And that helps us identify really those key messages that we want to be pushing out org-wide. So that's been super effective for us and has helped us greatly in our efforts. Keep track of the content so that it's really process-driven and organized. And as Jen mentioned in the beginning, we are not a large team, so this has been a key component for us to be successful. This next slide here is just another slice of the calendar, and what you're going to see is when Jen and I kind of sit down and talk about, okay, we're looking at the month coming up, or even a couple of weeks out. All right, what are the stories that we're posting, and kind of what are the themes that we're seeing? And so what we have the opportunity to do is if different things come up, we're able to easily move these things in our calendar. So if it's moving it out a couple days, or if there's additional announcements that go out, we're able to flex to that, and our calendar has really been the anchor for us to be able to be that flexible. So I'm going to hand it back over to Jen, where she's going to tell you the fun stuff about our app launches. I've had the opportunity to participate in these, and just the excitement of this new tool when associates kind of see it, feel it, touch it, is really awesome.
Cool, thanks, Erin. App launches. So here, what you're seeing is a banner, and it's like one of those pop-up banners that's about 8 feet tall, and it's just part of our promotional package for the app launches. And I had mentioned earlier that our leadership was very supportive of this project and of the app, and they gave us the money for the app. They allowed us to add headcount so that we could have Erin join our team. But we also had shared with them that to be successful, we have to work to get people onto the app. It's not like a Field of Dream things where you just make it and you think people are going to come. So we also included in our proposal to our leadership some money to be able to promote the app so that we could actually, use it. Without people on it, it doesn't do very much. So we began our app launches in May of this year, and we've been doing a rolling launch. So we did our corporate office, then we went to our door group, and then we went to our cabinets corporate headquarters, and so on and so forth. And I would suggest for people who are in this same journey that a rolling launch is probably a good strategy, because you learn some things that can help make the following launches even better. So before each launch, we identify the people who are going to be the writers to the app, and we train them. And by the way, it's really easy to use the Sitrion product. So we train them. A lot of times they're human resources people, not communications professionals, and so we even give them some tips in terms of gathering stories. We encourage them to gather evergreen stories that speak to the key messages that they're trying to get to their audiences, so that they have something in their back pocket for when they're busy or when times are a little bit slow in the news world. And then we talk to them about, what's the best time for your business to be able to launch the app. So if it's like around a big event, or maybe it's, a big announcement happening, we just want to make sure that we have their full attention so that we can be most successful. And then, as you saw, but I'll show you some more, we did a big splash with a lot of promotional materials. So the Sitrion app, it's Sitrion One, but we chose to do a branded app, and so instead of Sitrion, we have ours called Connect, and we got to pick colors, and we did a whole bunch of stuff around Connect. So we had t-shirts and how to download postcards, and we've been using these throughout. Tablecloths, that was our new thing. I love it. So it's been a lot of fun, and we, as Erin said, we make sure to document the whole process, because people who are on the app feel like they're part of something, and so we like to share that story. And one of the reasons why we have an app, besides just trying to get messages out to the non-desk workers, is that we're trying to help support this idea that we are one organization. Even though we are in a lot of different businesses and we're in a lot of different locations, we really are one organization. In terms of activation, at this point we have 2,200, a little bit more associates who have Connect. In terms of activation, for our corporate offices, we're at like 61 to 94%. For our door manufacturing facility, it's I think now about 60%. We also have some of our Moen manufacturing on the app, but they just launched, and so I don't have their numbers on here. And in terms of engagement, so we definitely have a group of people who got the app, got onto Connect, and have since fallen off. But we also have a group of people, and it's like 33 to 43%, I'd say, who are really, really engaged, and we see them coming back at least weekly. We think actually a lot of these people are coming back more like on a daily basis, and that's really great to see. In terms of when people are accessing it, we see that a lot of activity happens at lunchtime, which is about consistent with other things that we've been seeing on external social media. And we see that we have 20% of users viewing the app on weekends. We see that they're also looking at it in the evenings. And so I think that again goes to show that people really enjoy and appreciate the ability to get information when they want it and where they want it. And that includes the office people as well as the manufacturing. All right, so what we've learned so far, and I think this is the last section before we move on to questions. So to reiterate, the leadership support at the highest level is key. But then once you have that, also gaining that local business level support is really important. You know, they're the ones that have to drive the content for their own locations and assist with the launches. So it's really important to have them, you know, really motivated. One thing that we haven't talked about too much yet is kind of the technical piece. And having and developing a good back-end architecture to be able to make that first-time login experience as easy as possible is really important, because you want the person, first of all, to be successful when they get on the app, and second of all, you want it to be easy so that they don't get to the app but then they're frustrated. That took a lot of work from our IT team on the Fortune brand side, working with the Sitrion team to be able to make that happen. But overall, we feel like we have a lot of people having success the first time around and saying that it is easy. You know, we would suggest that the eye-catching promo materials we use were really helpful. You know, the rolling launch approach, we already talked about that. If you have other questions on these, you can let us know later. Prizes and incentives, those are really big in terms of getting people on the app. And even once they're on it, just kind of occasionally running an incentive is a nice way to get them back in. Specifically looking at that non-deaf population, so Erin and I actually were at our Doors plant during their launch, and what we found out was the face-to-face presentation was really important. You know, a lot of people have smartphones, but this manufacturing population wasn't quite as proficient with technology as perhaps the office population. And so, you know, we had started off saying, go to the App Store, type in Fortune Brands Connect, download the app, follow the easy prompts, and you're in, which pretty much worked fine for the office people. For the hourly people, they just needed a little bit more help. And so what we started doing in our presentation, we showed the video that we showed you that actually showed the app feed, and then we did screenshots step by step so that people could see what was going to happen and what to expect, and also so that they could see that, hey, it's not really that cumbersome, you know, I'm willing to do this. Since then, you know, Erin and I aren't able to go to every location to launch this thing, so we've created a brochure that's an expanded version of our How to Download postcard, but the brochure actually includes the step-by-step screenshots to provide a little bit more assistance. One other thing we did is we realized that if someone did get stuck in the download and registration process, sometimes we could tell that from the back end and we could reach out proactively, but sometimes we couldn't. And so we started putting in, we created a connecthelp@fbhs.com email address for technical support issues, and we started to promote that as well. And then two more things here. So the population without smartphones actually ended up being a little bit higher than we thought. So we felt really, really glad that we ended up going with a vendor, Sitrion, that not only had the app, but had the matching website version to go with it. That way, when we found out that there was definitely still people that didn't have a smartphone, we began to also promote the website because we didn't want them to feel left out. And as long as someone can hit an internet site, then they can access Connect. So we began to promote that. The other thing is that a lot of the hourly associates had Android phones. Everyone at my office has iPhones almost exclusively, and they're pretty much the same except for a few differences, but some of the differences ended up being, kind of important. And it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to get into it, but anyways, my point is there's a little bit of a difference. And what we ended up doing is purchasing an Android phone for our office so that we could start using it in our testing process. That way, when questions came up, we actually could see what was happening. And in terms of content, I'm just going to show you what's going on here. So Aaron talked to you a lot about what types of stories we're sending out from a Fortune Brands organization-wide level. What we're seeing a lot at the more local manufacturing level is kind of like a lot of fun stuff. It's a lot of people pictures, it's a lot of contests, trivia, and they're really successful with it. They're getting a lot of views into their posts, they're getting a lot of comments, and if you're looking at this or you were to show this to maybe a leader in your organization, they might look at it and say, this is really fluffy, or like this doesn't have anything to do with our business. But we think that these types of posts are strengthening the local associate community, that they're building engagement, they're helping to promote the culture, which is all helping with retention. And if this is the kind of stuff that gets people into the app, then they're there. And if they're in the app, because of the way the newsfeed works, they're probably seeing the stories that Aaron is pushing to them also. And so we feel like it works out for everybody. And then last slide here. Since Aaron and I are in the office, but I know that this app is really often targeting the non-desk people, I wanted to give you some feedback that we've received from our manufacturing location that's on it. So they're telling us that using the app to communicate is easier and it's quicker than what they were doing beforehand. So like they were making newsletters. Newsletters, although they looked really good, they took a lot of time to put together. They took money to print them. By the time they were all organized and put together and ready to print, they were kind of out of date already. And so with the app, people can do things easier, quicker, and they can do them in real time. And they've also expressed the same thought that a lot of other people have, which is that people like that they can access info when and where they want to. So that pretty much wraps it up, and I'll just say, even though this is new for us, I think across the board we've had a really good experience with it. We still have a lot of launches to do that we're planning for now that will happen in 2018. But we hope that was helpful to you, and we hope someday we're listening to one of your guys' webinars, listening to what you're doing and maybe getting some ideas from you. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We have a ton of questions to get through, so get ready. If we don't get to anything, I promise we will follow up via email. I've gotten a few questions about will we have access to this deck, this presentation. Everyone will get an email with both the recording and with the slides within the next 24 hours from me, so never fear. But yeah, let's jump right into it. If you guys are game. First question I want to tackle is about kind of the way the feeds work in the app. Basically, there's a few questions around: are there separate feeds for corporate versus manufacturing facilities? Do users at a manufacturing facility see this in different feeds or all in one feed? Kind of how do they access the content that's coming from different channels?
Yeah. Hey, James, can you pull up on your computer that one slide that's got the segmentation?
Sure.
While we're talking about this. So everyone sees something a little bit different, and it's based on, in the app, we have a lot of different groups, and they're all based on location. So to make it easy, it could be like employees Chicago, employees Cleveland, and so on and so forth. And so, you know, Aaron might post something to everybody, and so everyone is going to see the story about business results, but then employees in Cleveland were sent a message that was just about a Cleveland 5K that they're participating in. And so they would only see that.
So this example right here, the one on the left-hand side, we do at our corporate office population, this is Erin again, we welcome new associates, but that's not relevant for people at our manufacturing facilities or other locations because our office is, you know, a small population. So we are able, as Jen said, to kind of like segment just to that group, which has been effective. So to answer your question is people are seeing different feeds based on their location. Where we're sitting at the corporate level, we're really sending those broader business messages, so about our performance. Jen mentioned earnings. You know, when we all came together to help out with the hurricane efforts, you know, we packaged a story and pushed that out to everybody because we were all involved in that. So a lot of the content that I'm pushing out is really hitting on those key messages that I highlighted when we talked about the calendar. So what are those key topics that are important to those internal stakeholders, whether it's benefits or performance, jobs? And I'm able to post that to everybody so that they see that. But then somebody at a manufacturing location, as Jen mentioned, would be seeing, you know, a food truck post that was specific to a Doors manufacturing location. And they would just be in the feed kind of coming as they were posted.
Mm-hmm. So even, like, let's go back to Doors again. So a person at the Door manufacturing location could still be seeing something different than, like, the person at the Doors corporate office, which would be different than the Fortune Brands corporate office. So everyone is seeing something that is hopefully relevant just to them.
Great, thanks guys. I think that answers the question. There were other questions around how many channels you can utilize. The answer is as many as you need, and I think you guys are showing you can do it creatively where you just thread in different, you know, you get to a point of personalization for each associate down to both their geographic level or to the newbies like you're talking about at your corporate office, showing them something different.
So
very creative.
Just to add on that, so channels is something that is also an additional component to the app. So as Jen and I were rolling this out, we really wanted to like start small, you know, think big, scale up type of thing. And so there are opportunities within the app to subscribe to different channels. But this is a totally new tool for people, so we really tried to approach this like we have with the launches in a phased approach. So right now we have a community channel that we have opted in our population to, and that is a really well liked, well commented on, well viewed type of channel, which we expected anyways, just based on the fact that we're highlighting stories of our associates at our different companies in the community. So that's been really effective, and so where my role sits is I'm able to work with the different contacts in those locations and push out that content. And at any point, people can unsubscribe to these channels. So that is one example. And then we also recently launched an opt-in channel. And so that was sort of a test case for us, but it's really related to career development, professional development, and it's called Thrive at FBHS. And that's kind of language from a career development, kind of overall positioning that we landed on here. And so that is an opt-in channel that Jen and I will work to create kind of engagement and excitement around this channel. And so associates can opt in for career development information. We feature different associates across the organization, kind of if they're making moves to different companies, and we'll do advertisements, but it's not a channel that we have opted people in. So we're really trying to create some excitement, both here at the corporate office and then with our subsequent HR partners at our operating companies. to drive people to get engaged. So that's just like, as we talk about prizes and different incentives, that's just another way that we're, introducing some new fun things, but also leaving it up to the associate to subscribe if they have interest.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Another question here around the local authors that you're utilizing. How many people are actually publishing content through the app, and how did you go about selecting those people to become writers for you?
I think at this point we have maybe 10 people, including Erin and myself. We actually go to the business, we talk with their leadership. Usually it's like maybe the VP of HR or like a director of HR, and we explain the whole app to them, and we ask them, who do you think is a person that should have this responsibility, and who you think would like it? And so it really comes from the business. Once they identify the person or two people, then they let us know. Erin and I can grant them special permission to be a writer. Only people who we've granted permission can write to the app. And then we train them, and then they're off and running.
And honestly, a lot of the locations, when we kind of reach out to leadership and have that conversation, it's an easy sell. People are already kind of, as Jen mentioned, either doing newsletters, or there is somebody in that office that if they don't have a designated communications person, maybe it falls to HR, but they are pushing out some sort of information in a bulleted fashion, in some sort of fashion. And once we're able to get them in the back-end system, it is so easy. I mean, the light bulbs kind of go off for them, and then, that's really where the magic happens. And they get excited about uploading a photo and really easily being able to translate the information that they want to get out there within the app.
Great. Next question. You do a lot of communication through the app. Have you taken advantage of any functions around HR and integrations to other systems into the app?
So that is like a really big priority for Brian, our SVP. He really wants to move this beyond communications and to make it more of a productivity tool, and we do have that in our plans. We think that we're going to probably start with Workday and perhaps showing people their pay slips. So that's a 2018 task for us. But yes, we feel like that's going to help get people in on a regular basis and to get new users into the app.
Gotcha. And you started down that path, right? You have integration with the Box file system. People can access certain non-sensitive information there. Yeah.
And I'll also say that when we were looking at the different vendors for the apps, and we didn't really know what employee apps did when we started looking, there were some that were just really focused on communications, and then the Sitrion app was really much broader, and it had that capacity to be able to, integrate different systems with it. And at first we were like, oh, I don't know if we want to do all that. That's going way beyond the communications realm. But then as we thought more on it, and we, had our human resources and our IT professionals in some of those vendor meetings with us, there was a lot of excitement about, maybe this could be, maybe not the one-stop shop for everything, but maybe we can leverage what you're doing with this Connect app and make things easier for people in other ways as well. So it ended up being an advantage that Sitrion had.
Nice. Next question. We had in the slides that 2,200 people, I think, have Connect. How many people? We also had, there's 10,000 workers nationwide that are deskless. How many people have actually, you've rolled it out to so far? I think you guys are still in the process of getting it to more and more locations.
Yeah, I think that, if you were to average, who we've introduced the app to and how many people got on, I think we're probably at, I don't know, maybe 50% altogether. Maybe it's about half. It varies by location. Some people have had it for longer than others. So the 2,200 people is not fully targeting all 10,000 people yet. We have a big rollout planned in January to hit our cabinets manufacturing associates, and they're the bulk of that 10,000. So overall, I think the activation rate's about 50%.
Gotcha. Thanks. Next question. It's about, do you guys provide content in multiple languages within your app? I think you guys are English only. Is that correct?
Right now we're focusing on the U.S. population. We do have, and also our data is coming from a source that is only for U.S. associates. So it is also in our plans in 2018 to expand the app to be able to have our global associates on. We'll definitely start with Canada because most of them speak English. We made sure that in the vendor selection process that the app was going to be able to be used in different languages and in different countries. So the app is, it can do that. It's really more on our end, trying to figure out how are we going to get messages to them in their language. Are we going to rely on translations? Are we going to rely on a local writer who will write things in the native language? So we're not there yet. Right now our goal is really to focus on our English-speaking population and really get traction with it and increase adoption.
Great, thanks. Yeah, always tricky which way you want to go with localization. Okay, next question. What does leadership think of the program now? Are they happy with the success to date? What's kind of been their feedback since they gave you the initial green light?
I think overall it's been really well received. We actually used the app at a leadership conference. And so, that was a great way to get all the leaders in front of it because some of them hadn't seen it yet. I think the presidents of the company, I'm looking in the back end at how often they're in the app, and they're in it quite a bit, and it makes sense because we're telling these great stories about their brands. And I think there's a lot of support for that. I think one of the things that we need to continue to do is to help people just remember that the app is there to leverage, to help them achieve their business goals and to help them get their messages across. So especially as we launch the app, it almost feels like old hat to Aaron and I, but for some of these new businesses that we're bringing in, it's new, and so we just need to continue to remind them that you've got this great tool to be able to speak through. And we're hoping that, in addition to a lot of the fun and associate stories, that we have more leaders saying that, yeah, I want to use this tool and get some thoughts out directly to my associates.
Excellent. That's great news. This is going to be our last question. I promise we'll follow up with the rest over email. You mentioned more people had Android phones in the manufacturing population than you thought. Did you have unique problems that were specific to Android, or has it kind of been similar experience regardless of the device?
So I feel like it wasn't like specific problems. The example that I can share is when Jen and I went to our doors population, part of our authentication, kind of getting people on the app process, is you're entering your name, date of birth, and selecting the company that you're part of. So when people were selecting on an Android phone their date of birth, it wasn't intuitive to us that it was very easy. There was a calendar drop down. So we were working with people kind of one-off that came up who were super intrigued. And we were kind of like flipping through multiple years. And once we realized that we didn't need to do that, it was just better understanding the functionality of the Android phone. So as Jen mentioned, we got hooked up with an Android phone so that we could just better understand what happens on an Android phone versus an iPhone. And so that's just an example we kind of share, especially as sort of a joke, although it was not a joke when we were doing it. We tried to make it funny. But we just learned, and that was kind of, a stepping stone for us to realize that at each launch and at each company, we're going to learn more things and learn more about their population base. And so that's where we also were able to highlight the web version, which people use even in our corporate office. Some people are just not, they're really like desk focused. And so, sometimes they don't want to, they're not looking at their phone during the day, but they can have our feed up as like a tab in their window, so they won't miss a message.
And one other thing on the Android and the Apple or the iOS, hang on just a sec, is that so sometimes when updates are made through Sitrion, sometimes it affects Android one way. Actually, it usually affects iOS one way, and so you have like a difference. So like maybe everything works fine on an Android, but then something is a little bit quirky on the iOS, on the Apple phones, and that needs to go get fixed. And the closest I can say as to what it's like is if you are familiar with websites or intranet sites, sometimes you'll hit a site on Chrome, it'll be great, but then you'll go to IE and it looks like not quite right. So every now and then we'll have an issue like that. And so that's just one more, it's just like a difference now that we're in the app world that we're dealing with and we're learning with too.
Right. Yeah, it's one of the new challenges, right? We have a platform that's basically across all devices, and we have to start thinking as communicators, we care a lot about context, and it's different context in every interface. So, all of a sudden you become a user interface expert.
Yeah. And the only thing I will add is just our account executive for this account is amazing. And he is so knowledgeable about the product, about just what they're looking to do, his development team. And so when anything comes up that we think like, hey, this looks a little different, it's, I'm not sure of that answer, I'll circle back. Or he was just alerted of that answer and he can let us know. And so Jen and I really, when we talk about like having a team of app writers, is we then will filter that down. Is that something that they need to know right now? Or is that something that we can kind of connect with them on our next like monthly call? So that's been really helpful. I mean, it's been a true partnership with their team. I mean, I cannot say enough great things about, just their support through the whole process. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. If you choose to do an app, we feel 100% supported in, different things we're exploring or different questions. And, they're so knowledgeable on kind of the technical component, which is great.
Agreed.
Excellent. Let's end it on that. That's perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Aaron, so much. This was super informative. Again, to everyone on the phone, you will get a copy of the slide and the recording, and we'll answer any questions that weren't answered today over email. And that's it from us here. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.